Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the NYSOA Summer Series, educational series. This is the first rendition of 4 installments that will focus on the NCAA rule changes for the upcoming season. So we are thrilled to continue to offer experiences that engage, educate, and inspire our members to be better every game. With that said, we have an exciting program planned for today. Again, one of 4 installments focusing on those NCAA rule changes, which are quite significant for the upcoming season. And we have one very special feature guest who is one of the very men who helped craft the language of the new rules, Mr. Ken Andrews. So we're super excited for the program today and all of the great knowledge we're going to share and the conversation that we're going to have. So hopefully you are excited as well. So again, this is the first of 4 installments. Today we're going to cover off on the overall rules, the rule differences, which there are some. They're not just a pick and left from the IFAB, so that's important to note. And then also we're going to dive into handball, which is one of those really challenging topics that has continued to evolve, and we will continue to evolve with it. After this session, we'll have 3 other sessions. So up next will be session 2 on July 18th, where we'll cover violent behavior, as well as video review and fighting and the differences there, which are significant and important for us all to be aware of. Thank you, Doug. And then also we have session 3 that will be focusing on the restarts. Well, that may not seem like a sexy topic for us all. It's super important that we are all familiar with restarts, and not only the rules, but the implications and how we need to maybe manage the game and our positioning a little bit differently as a result of these rule changes. So really important stuff to be aware of. So that is session 3, and then the last session, session 4, will be a live Q&A session where we're going to talk with our members. You can ask any remaining questions that you may have and clarifications to make sure that we're all set up for success. We might have some prizes as well, so don't miss out on session 4. And as you may have seen in Lance's email, the NCAA book is also available for download, so hopefully you've downloaded it by now, and if not, please do so, as it'll help us get familiar with those rules when we have to read and read again. So before we get started, a couple things of rules of engagement. If you're not familiar with the Zoom platform, there's a few ways that you can get engaged and be a part of the conversation, which I'm seeing the chat has already begun, which I love. So first and foremost, if you look down in the center, there's a chat feature. And let's go ahead and have a roll call. Go ahead and say your name and where you're from, just to get the chatter started. And that's really just focused on making sure that you're having engagement with one another. If you have a specific question for any one of the speakers today, whether that be Ken, Todd, or Lance, go ahead and put it in the QA. You'll see that down at the bottom. It's a separate feature than the chat feature. So go to the Q&A and you can ask a specific question. I may answer that directly if it's something that I feel I'm qualified to answer directly, or I may elevate that to one of the speakers as well during the conversation. So if you have a specific question, use the Q&A. And if you just want to chat and have some good dialogue or banter, go ahead and use the chat feature. We will also be using poll features tonight. So if you're not familiar with polls, a pop-up will show up when that question arises. You'll have about 10, 15 seconds. We'll see a video. We'll probably see it twice. And then you'll be able to answer what your immediate reaction is. Don't be concerned that your individual input will be seen. We're really just looking at the aggregate of the answers. So it's really anonymous. There's no concern. This is a safe place for us to learn. So go ahead, participate, go ahead and click what first comes to mind, and then we'll talk about the aggregate and what's the expected outcome. So safe place for us to learn. Go ahead and participate. And there's several different ways that you can get involved today. We don't have video turned on, so there is no video. Don't be worried about that. But if we do have some Q&A, we may bring you into the conversation, in which case you'll be prompted to unmute yourself and join. So those are the ways that you can get engaged today. But let's go ahead and introduce our fantastic speakers. So as I had mentioned on the start, we are so thrilled to have our guest speaker today, Ken Andrews. Many of you may know he's an NCAA Secretary Rules Editor for soccer and NYSOA Hall of Fame, class of 2002. So we're thrilled to have him joining and really helping us to better understand the why behind the rule changes and answer any questions that you guys might have. So a great resource for us to have on the show today, and we're thrilled to have him. So please take advantage of having Ken with us today. And then also we have Dr. Todd Abraham. He's the NYSOA Hall of Fame, class of 2010, and also our current Senior Director of Instruction for NYSOA. So he's responsible for all the great instruction that you've seen this summer. And then last but certainly not least, Lance Van Heidsma. He's a NYSOA National, a 2-time NCAA championship referee, and currently the manager of refereeing at CONCACAF, and also our director of ops at NYSOA. So some really great minds today, so please take advantage of this awesome learning opportunity. So without further ado, I will hand it off to you, gentlemen.
Great. Thanks, Tori.
Yeah.
We're excited today to be able to start the rules change sessions, as Tori said. And Ken has graciously agreed to join us for all three of these sessions. So he will be here for us to be able to ask questions throughout the three sessions, and that'll be a help. So with that, why don't we move to the next slide? And what we'll do today is focus on the three highlighted areas. The agenda you see here is what we'll cover over the entire three sessions. So we'll talk about the rule change overview today, accidental handball today, and the remaining IFAB NCAA differences. And then we'll deal with the other items on this list during the next two sessions over the next 2 weekends. And so if we move to the next page, we'll let Ken take this. This is the overview of the rule changes, and he can give you a little insight into all the discussions that went on at the NCAA Rules Committee and how we got to where we are and what we need to do this year as we move into a major rule change year for collegiate soccer.
Thank you, Todd, and thank you everyone for attending this afternoon. On behalf of the NCAA, I want to thank NYSOA for putting on these programs. The organization genuinely appreciates the educational component that is provided by NYSOA. It's critical to the success of the game. Let's talk about a few preliminary matters that don't necessarily address rules issues, but will bring you up to speed because I know this is on the minds of many of the referees. At this point in time, in early to mid-July, it is still uncertain what is going to happen with intercollegiate soccer this year. I'm sure you understand and appreciate the fact that everything is in a state of flux with the COVID-19 pandemic, and schools, conferences, and the NCAA are still trying to sort out where this is going to go. At the moment, decisions are being made on a school by school and conference basis. And the NCAA will defer in most instances to what the institutions do to determine what is in the best interest of their student athletes. And the overall position of the NCAA has always been, we're going to do what is safe and is in the best interest of the student athletes. Will there be a fall season? I don't know. Will there be fall playoffs? I don't know. And it will be announced by the NCAA in approximately a month. There are multiple committees which are studying this, and they're looking at it again from a health and safety perspective. There are discussions about playing in the spring. You may have seen that certain conferences have already said we're not playing in the fall. For instance, the Ivy League, Division III, the NESCAC and the Centennial Conference. So we'll see what's going to happen. Other conferences, the Big Ten just announced that they're playing conference only. So we're going to see what's going to happen. I'm sure it will impact referees. Travel is certainly going to be limited. And we're going to see what happens with that. There will.
And just to jump in here, just so the members are aware, NYSOA is working on some best practices and suggestions for referees to best deal with these situations. And there will be materials that will be sent out with the preseason mailing, as well as continuous updates on the NYSOA website as situations change and as best practices get updated.
Todd, you are correct. And the same issue is being reviewed at the NCAA. We're talking about it in terms of rule modifications or waivers for the current season that will be directly addressing student athlete health and safety with COVID issues. Issues are being reviewed that would involve things such as social distancing. Will the coaching or technical area be expanded? Will student athletes be required to wear masks when they're not actively participating in the game? Will there be ball persons? Will referees have to sign the book at the game? So all of those issues are being addressed, and Soccer is only a small component part of that because they're looking at it for all sports. Obviously, the thought is we want to try to restrict any interpersonal reaction as much as we can. So stay tuned on that. I will send out a memo. It'll be posted on Arbiter, and I'll make sure it gets to NYSOA and all other groups when we finally decide what these waiver/modifications are. So stay tuned with that. Tori mentioned earlier, the rule book is now posted, and you can download the book for free. If you go to www.ncaapublications.com, it is a free download. We don't know when the hardcover rule book will be available. My guess is it will be in approximately 30 days. So stay tuned for those developments. We'll keep you posted. Everybody's working diligently on this, and obviously we're in uncharted waters. So pay attention.
And
Now,
the
let's
rule
talk
book will
about-
be part of everybody's preseason mailing as well. As always, NYSOA will provide all members a rule book as part of our preseason mailing.
All right, let's talk about what happened this year in the 2020-2021 NCAA soccer rules. In a nutshell, the answer is a lot. I've been a college soccer referee since 1977, and I've been a member of the rules committee for approximately 30 years. First as your NYSOA representative, and the last 10 years or so, I've been the actual NCAA soccer secretary rules editor. There are more changes this year than in all of the preceding 40 years. One of my goals as the NCAA secretary rules editor has been to bring us as close as we can to IFAB. I know everybody keeps talking about that, and it happened incrementally over the years, but this year there was a massive shift. The IFAB changes that came in 2019, we essentially adopted this year. Now, some folks want to know, why didn't you do it in 2019? Number one, it was a timing issue because we're now on a 2 years rule cycle. Number two, we wanted to look and see how the IFAB rules worked out. And we've adopted most of them. Some of them we have not, and we'll talk about that. But for those of my brothers and sisters out there who are shouting and clicking and messaging Tori right now saying, why don't we just adopt the FIFA laws? The answer is because we have a different product and a different constituency. I don't think you will ever see NCAA adopt the FIFA laws in their entirety because there are differences that are important to the NCAA. Number one, this is a student athlete endeavor that we're engaged in. It's supposed to be part of the learning process. It's not professional entertainment. So as a result, there will always be differences dealing with substitutions because that has to do with student athlete participation. And one of the goals is the end of the NCAA is to allow as many student athletes an opportunity to participate in a game as can be. The second thing is we will always look at player safety with a much more jaundiced eye. We're going to make sure that player safety is the number one priority. Those of you who hear me speak always listen and hear, your job is to make sure that there are 22 student athletes in class on Monday. It's not for entertainment. It's to make sure that you have student athletes enjoying the game and back in class on Monday for their real job. And then the other thing that we're going to look at always is sporting activity. We expect that we will always be more stringent with unsporting misconduct. And if you will go over what we did and didn't do this year, and those are the themes. So let's look at big picture, what did we do this year, all right? And this is just going to be a review of where we're going to go over the next 3 weeks. So if we could pull back up that slide that's got the NCAA rule changes on it. Doug, that'd be great if you can do that.
Next page, Doug. Next page.
Can you back it up one?
There it is.
Okay, here we go. All right, what you see in front of you is essentially the summary that's posted on Arbiter. So if you want to download the summary of 2020 and 21 major rules changes, go to Arbiter, download it. Here is the quick overview. This year, members of the coaching staff may communicate with each other via electronic devices, whether on site or at another location. I'm glad we did that because it's going to be more important now, because I would expect that traveling parties are going to be smaller. So if you now see somebody working on an iPad, speaking on a phone, on a sideline, assume that it is permissible. Don't go over there looking for trouble and trying to figure out who a coach or an assistant is speaking with, but you should expect this type of activity. Video review, we keep expanding it. However, it is not at the level of IFAB. This year, we went to permit video review to correct timing errors. So we now have 5 instances. We're not going to review that now. You need to come back in a few weeks to go over the 5 instances. But highlights show we clarified the first instance of video review as to whether or not a goal had occurred. We clarified that. The only video review that you will look at for a goal is, did the entire ball cross the line in between the post and under the crossbar? That's what you're looking for when we said, was there a good goal? You do not review where was there an offside or some other violation which led to that goal. I know some people last year had the opinion that, well, we're going to look at offside because that would be whether or not it's a good goal. So that's been clarified. Come back, we'll go over all these. Video review, correct timing errors, and as with all of our video review, things have to be corrected before the next start of play. So you've got a stoppage. Before you restart, you need to make that correction. Protests. Unfortunately, the well-intentioned protest rule, frankly, didn't work out all that well. It was subject to, I believe, misuse by coaches who were improperly questioning issues that involved referee judgment or referee discretion. And the rule was not intended to do that. So the way it turned out, I was dealing with a protest about 60 some a year. So if you think about it, about 1 per game day. And it just became unwieldy. So under the new protest rule, you can only protest a game for 2 reasons: player identification or misidentification, more properly. If someone gives a card to 18 and it should have been 16, we can review and fix that. Or illegal participation by an ejected or suspended player or team personnel. That's it.
And Ken, just on that point, the player identification is the one video review item that can be reviewed not before the next stoppage. It can be reviewed later in the match.
Yes.
It's the only instance of video review that doesn't have to happen before the restart. And
you can review it later in the match, or I can review it post-match in a protest situation. This is something that's pretty clear. Either you got the right player or you didn't. It's not a discretionary issue. So we want to make sure, particularly where we have punitive action, penalties or suspension, we simply want to make sure that it's the proper student athlete. Restarts, we've adopted the IFAB law. That's going to be a subject of a whole nother seminar, so stay with us. Accidental handball, we've adopted IFAB. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because Lance is going to pick up and run with this. We've got great video clips. We want to make sure that everybody understands the difference now between whether or not you are a defender or an attacking player, and what is an immediate issue when it involves accidental handballs and things of that nature. Your mindset has to change now. The old days where was it deliberate? Well, that's only part of the story now. Now it's who, what, why, when, and where, and how long ago did it happen? So this is going to be tricky. I expect a lot of consternation this year, so pay attention to this. Really, really good video stuff coming up today. Now, I'm going to say this is my baby, and hopefully it's my legacy. Getting as close to IFAB, but fixing what was some confusion, which was engendered by poor language and trying to shoehorn too many things into a fighting issue. So what is he talking about? Years ago, a fight is a fight is a fight. Somebody throws a punch, that's a fight, you're done for two. And then we had that unfortunate instance of hair pulling down in New Mexico about 6 or 8 years ago, and everybody decided, boy, that's nasty. That shouldn't be a one game. And we tried to shoehorn it into fighting. Didn't work, caused confusion. I'll admit that I plagiarized and took an idea from basketball. I was watching a basketball game and I see a nasty foul, and I see the officials going over and they're looking to determine is it flagrant 1 or flagrant 2, and a light bulb went off. And I said, wait a minute, let's look at violent behavior, and we can make an analogy, violent behavior 1 and 2. So the rule has been changed. We now have fighting. It's reverted to the old language. A fight is a fight is a fight. Somebody throws a punch, doesn't have to connect. It's a 2-game suspension. But what we've then done is categorize violent behavior in 2 categories, 1 and 2. In shorthand, violent behavior 1 is basically what you've always considered violent behavior to be. And we're going to have a whole nother complete segment on this because it's critically important. Violent behavior 2 is the behavior that is so far out of line that it is likely to cause injury. Is it deliberate? Is it malicious? Is there intent to injure? Now, why is that important? Violent behavior 1 will be a 1-game red card suspension. Violent behavior 2 is going to be a 2-game suspension. It's the equivalent of a fight in terms of the severity. So we're looking to eliminate this violent conduct, which has no part in the game, particularly at the college level. So stay tuned with that. We're going to have basically a whole seminar on it. And it's going to be important because the rules also say if a student athlete gets 2-game suspensions, meaning if you get 2 fights, you're gone for the year. 2 violent behavior 2s, you're gone for the year. 2 referee assaults, you're gone for the year, or any combination thereof. So if a student athlete gets involved in a fight one day, and then he or she commits violent behavior later on in the season, that's it. You may get the idea that we're trying to eliminate violence from the game. If you're getting that idea, then the message is received, and that's what we're trying to do. Free kicks change dramatically. Stay tuned. Biggest change, obviously, a free kick, restart in the box, the ball is live. Goal kicks as well. Penalty kicks, we're going to clarify positioning of the goalkeepers. Can we go to the next slide, please? We didn't have it in there, but we've also adopted the IFAB rules on walls, drop balls, and restarts. Now, here's what we didn't do. We didn't adopt some of the IFAB changes, allowing players to leave as substitutes anywhere on the field. We didn't think it would be a really good idea to have 18 to 22-year-olds stepping off the field in a bad environment where they would get themselves into trouble. So we decided that players still must leave the field at midfield. And we also did that because of the fact that we have more substitutes, so a little easier to keep track of it. But you need to make sure that the student athletes leave for subs at midfield. Also, the NCAA requires—
And let me also weigh in on that one, Ken. One of the other things that's been a difference and remains a difference, of course, is the timing considerations, the clock being on the field and the NCAA not having an opportunity for referees to add time. But the referee can stop the clock. So if the referee feels that a team or a player is wasting time in leaving the field, you have the option and should stop the clock to make sure that this doesn't lead to some kind of an unfair advantage for that team. And so since we have control of the clock and can stop it, the need for the player to quickly leave the field so you don't have to add so much extra time is less important in the NCAA game than it is in the IFAB situation.
And Todd is correct. Look, if you think somebody's dogging it and trying to kill time when they're substituting, this is very easy. You simply stop the clock. You have the right as an NCAA official to stop the clock essentially anytime you want to. It's no different than adding time, except you need to do it on the field because that's where the official clock is. Somebody's playing games with subs, stop the clock. Talk to them. And if it reaches the point where they continue to do it and it becomes unsporting behavior, then you can deal with it in a different way. Now, injured players, once the trainer comes on, that player leaves, can't stay on the field. And the same thing now applies to can't take a PK. A next change, which we didn't adopt, let's go back to where I was talking about sporting behavior. If you have a promising attack, okay, and there is a play on advantage situation, under IFAB, you're not going to go back and get the player. NCAA requires that you go back and caution that player. If it would have been a caution when you stopped, if you play on, you go back and you assess the caution with that player. Now, also, IFAB decided that if you went to kicks from the mark to determine a game, and in our parlance, penalty kicks, that misconduct did not carry over. In the NCAA, misconduct carries over. So if you have a player who receives a yellow card during the first 90 minutes, or in this instance, the first 120, and you go to penalty kicks, and that player receives a second yellow card, that's then an ejection. So again, you're looking at those two areas. We consider it to be a sporting issue. So that's why we're looking at these rules very carefully and segue back. When you're refereeing a college soccer game, it's a different venue. It's a different event. And we're trying to make that clear. Student athletes, enforce the rules for student athlete safety and the sporting issues. That's why we're so hot to trot about language. Those of you who have been around for a long time don't appreciate the positive change that's been in the game. 30 years ago, foul language was rampant. There are even some people who would say that there were referees that would use foul language. I'm not sure that I can remember that far back, but it was inappropriate. And now you reach a point where there's improper language in a game and everybody's got their arms up in the air saying, referee, deal with this. That's a great thing. Just like tackles from behind used to be the norm. Now somebody takes somebody down from behind, you have 21 student athletes screaming, what are you doing? You can't do that. So those are all positive changes. I'll stop talking for a while. I appreciate you listening to me. And we're going to kick it, I guess, to either Todd or Lance.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just going to make a couple of points just to build on what Ken said here about some of the rule differences. I want to go back to the injured players leaving the field and cannot take the penalty kick. Again, you know that, or may be aware that IFAB has made that change that they can. Remember, too, that if an injured player is substituted, the player that comes on also may not be the one to take the penalty kick. So in these situations, the penalty kick must be taken by one of the players that was on the field at the time the foul occurred and can't be the substitute. Also remember that if a player is injured and the opponent is cautioned or ejected, then that player gets a free sub. And again, that sub that comes on may not take that penalty kick. So just wanted to to clarify that as well. Make sure that we're all on the same page here
Remember,
about these penalty kick situations.
anytime a student athlete is injured and a disciplinary card is issued, that's a free sub.
And also want to just see Ken remembers overtimes we both do from when they used to be 15 minutes, but now that they're 10 minutes, it's only 110 minutes before we go to the penalty kicks.
Thank you.
But those of us, see, he's a lawyer, I do math and science. That's the difference. So, and then last, I just want, also, I shouldn't have to tell everybody this, but unfortunately, every time we go through rule changes, I have to remind people that it's not up to you whether you like these rule changes or not. These are NCAA rule changes. We must be playing by the NCAA rules. And whether you agree with the changes or the differences, it's not up to you to make that decision. The NCAA game must be officiated by the NCAA rules.
And it's incumbent upon us to learn the rules and know them. You decided that you want to be a college referee, and you are, which I consider to be an honor. And we're getting paid fairly well to do these kinds of things. There's no excuse for us not knowing the rules, particularly now, since we are so close to IFAB. There are not a lot of rule differences. There never was an excuse for not knowing the rules, but there's even less of an excuse now. Wouldn't everybody like to start hearing from Lance now?
Sounds like a good plan. Over to you, Lance.
Mike Oliver said, yeah, he wants to hear from Lance.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Todd. Thank you for providing that comprehensive overview of the rule changes. Ken, like as you said, this set of rule changes was the largest amount of rule changes that we have experienced in NCAA soccer. I mean, I've only been a college referee for about 12 years, and usually it's a couple rule changes a year, but this one is very comprehensive. I think it's beneficial that we're moving towards the IFAB laws, because it helps us referees be less confused when we're having to implement the rules. So we do appreciate that. We also appreciate the fact that there are differences with the college game for the student athlete. And I think that's what makes our game so unique. But I also think that's what makes our game so enjoyable, because we're here for the student athletes, and we can't forget that. So today we're going to talk about the handball rule change. Some of it's a rule change, some of it's a clarification. So we're gonna kind of, we got a bunch of clips here. We got some examples. We got some polling at the end. Okay, so please pay close attention to this. This is new. This is even new. This is so new that some of this information's from IFAB that came out about 3 weeks ago. Okay, so we were kind of ahead of the curve. Ken was ahead of the curve here. So we're really thankful that we're able to start to collaborate and move closer together on this for us. So we're going to start with accidental handball. This is kind of a hot topic lately. Most of us that are watching the Premier League games, watching MLS, watching NWSL, Bundesliga, Serie A, all those games, you're seeing these accidental handballs that result into a goal-scoring opportunity, and all of a sudden the goal is disallowed and people are wondering what happened until you saw the replay. Okay, so we don't get the luxury of VAR for accidental handballs. So we have to be close. We have to be have a good angle of view. We have to be able to see it in live play, because we only get to see it once. Lucky for you today, you're going to be able to see these clips multiple times. All right, and we hope at the end there's some clarity and more understanding. So let's look at the rule change here.
Lance, let me interrupt you for just
go
a
ahead.
second. I hope everybody heard what Lance just said. You're not going to video review in college soccer to see whether or not it's a handling violation. Not going to happen. It's not one of the 5 things that we permit. So more critical that we as a crew be on top of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially this season when you may or may not have less crew members on your games. You really got to pay close attention. So we're going to start with the rule change. It is an offense if a player gains possession or control of the ball after it has accidentally touched their hand or arm, and then immediately, focus on the keyword immediately here, and we're going to define and we're going to provide some considerations for you. Okay, 1, scores in the opponent's goal. 2, creates a goal scoring opportunity. 3, scores in the opponent's goal directly from their hand or arm, even if accidental, including by the goalkeeper. Now, accidental handball. If an accidental handball occurs in the middle of the field, we wouldn't call it typically. But now we're talking about closer to the penalty area, inside the penalty area by the attacking team, that results in one of those 3 situations. Okay, so let's talk about one. We've got deliberate handling the ball. Okay, that's the one that hasn't changed. NCAA has kept that in there. So it makes it easy for us. Those of us that have participated in the stimulus quiz from NYSOA, week 5, and I give the plug here for Tori Penso because she did a fantastic job being the host for that. Week 5, Mark Geiger came on and gave a tremendous presentation with considerations involving handball and deliberately handling the ball. Okay, so I highly recommend that it's stored on NYSOA's YouTube channel. That's week 5 stimulus quiz that you can go on there, and Mark Geiger put on a clinic for us. I can't do it justice by getting too much detail, but I will do my best to channel my inner Mark Geiger to educate everybody today. So let's take a look here. Let's take a look at some clips. So we're going to have a first set of clips here. These are going to be accidental handballs, which immediately gives the player a goal or a goal scoring opportunity. So Doug, go ahead and play here. We do have a mixture of international game and college games, so please bear with us. Watch right here. Accidental handball by Gareth Bale on his forearm, right? It was accidental, but what happens? Goal scoring opportunity. He actually scores a goal here directly, immediately. So in this case, we would expect a disallowed goal and the restart to be a direct free kick for the defending team for the accidental handball that resulted into a goal. Okay? This one's pretty simple. It's very difficult, though, to see during live play. So, assistant referees, you really have to be focused on your touch line to be able to help the referees when needed. Next. Okay, so take a look at this one, right? So typically we would not call this a handball because this is a controlled touch by the attacker, and he controlled touches it into his hand. However, what transpires from the accidental handball here? If you want to write in the chat, please feel free to write in the chat if you want to put your answers in as I discuss these. So we have a controlled touch, accidental handball, and then you have a promising attack. I see Patrick Bowman wrote promising attack. Absolutely, this is a promising attack. Now, it is the NCAA, NYSOA strongly recommends, and so does IFAB, strongly recommends you make this call immediately. Okay, we are accustomed to this wait and see approach that we've been preaching for the last couple years. In this case, there is no wait and see because it is immediate promising attack here, goal scoring opportunity. Because if you wait and see, what could transpire next with the defender closing down on the attacking player?
If you wait and see in a situation like this, entirely possible you're going to see something that you don't want to see. So head this off right away. We're not looking to see if an advantage develops or doesn't develop in an offside situation. Right away, it's there. There's a promising attack. nothing good is going to happen. Either you're going to get a goal, which should not have happened, or you're going to have a defender do something untoward, and you're going to wind up with a PK or a card or a dangerous restart. You've got to get this quickly. And in college soccer, it's incumbent upon us to do it. You're not looking at VAR on this. And I know some people are saying, I've been monitoring, well, we should be doing more with VAR. Well, guess what? We don't have the ability to do it. Right? You see all the problems that are happening on the professional level. We don't have people trained. We don't have the equipment. That's why we have fewer opportunities to review. Will we get there with technology and training? Sure. Will it happen in my lifetime? Probably not. So we deal with what we do now on the field and limit the VAR to those 5 opportunities.
Thanks, Ken. Another point here for our referees is when you are calling this, you're calling an accidental handball that's resulting into a promising attack goal scoring opportunity here, an immediate goal scoring opportunity. It is very important that you sell your decision. You sell the call. And how do you sell the call? Come in, indicate to everybody, not just the players, but also the coaches, of what you are calling. Because this is a new rule change, many of the coaches and players are not going to be up to speed on this. So it's partly our job to educate the players and the coaches when these events occur. So that way it's clear for everybody, because there will be a learning curve associated with this. Next clip. Okay, this one's a little bit tougher to see here. So you may be able to see it on the replay. Right here, you'll see the ball accidentally touches, look at right there, right? Accidentally touches his arm. All right, but it results into immediate goal scoring opportunity. In this case, he actually scores. Okay, so this would be disallowed goal, direct free kick for the defensive team for handling the ball. Next. This one's a little bit more difficult. You'll probably get to see it more on the replay, but this is what we call a goal scoring opportunity. Okay. Right here, right? The ball deflects up off his knee, off the foot, off the knee, hits the hand, and he's winding up to take a shot. We would like you to call this one right away. So therefore, like Ken says, you don't go looking for things you don't want to see. And this is another one too, where you will have to sell the decision. You have to sell this decision by acknowledging it and letting everybody know that it was with the hand, okay? And you have to know the proper terminology from the rule book, because that's going to be extremely important when you're having to explain why you just disallowed a goal in the 89th minute to tie the game. When a coach is going to be extremely passionate about the goal being disallowed, and you have to be able to calm and collectively explain the rule.
And that also, just to build on that, that also reflects the fact that you're going to have exactly the same situation by a defender versus an attacker that'll be handled differently. And you have to be comfortable with the fact that that is indeed the case. I know people are saying that we're going to have people yelling for handballs all over the field. They will, until they become comfortable with and understand this rule change. And this rule change is about getting this goal scoring or goal opportunity addressed immediately. And so you have to be comfortable with the fact that exactly the same action by a defender in that situation would be accidental and would not result in a penalty kick or not result in a handball. But when it happens by the attacker, it must be called immediately.
And this is, thank you, Todd. And this is what we call soccer understanding. Like, what does the game expect? On an accidental handball that results into a goal scoring opportunity by the attacking team, that is not fair. And the game expects it to be called. On the flip side of that, when you have an accidental handball by the defending team inside the penalty area, the game, it does not expect you to award a penalty kick there. Okay, so use that kind of logic there. and that will help you be able to make that determination. So there is a difference between a handball accidental by the attacking team resulting into a goal scored opportunity versus an accidental handball by the defending team. Okay, so yes, there is a double standard here. Next one, most of you probably have seen this live last fall. It was very confrontational. There's a handball here, right there. And you see the trajectory of the ball change on the handball. This is extremely hard to catch. But this is an example for you that it hits the hand, it goes right to a teammate this time. And I think after we see this slow motion replay, you see it deflects off the hand from number 14 from Man City. Sorry, apologize. It goes right to a teammate who takes one touch and immediately takes a shot.
Same difference between Man U and City. Neither one of them is going to win the league this year.
I know, and if Andy Moss is listening, he's probably going to be blowing up my text later saying, how could I confuse the two? So this one's a little bit trickier, right? Because the person who handles the ball accidentally is not the person who scores. His teammate does, but it happens immediately. The time puts it right in the back of the net. So we would expect this to be called disallowed goal, direct free kick at the spot of the handball for the defensive team. Okay? Very difficult to see in live play. I mean, the Premier League referees couldn't see this in live play. So this is just to provide us an example. And this is another talking point where you really have to be dynamic and you cannot be static in a statue around the penalty area, especially during set pieces. You really have to work hard to get that angle of view, to be able to see that decision. Next one. This is another one here. We'll see it in the replay. The referee saw it in live play, which is great. Handball, right? Barely. He hits it with his hand and his head. It is accidental. But what happens with that handball? Goes right to his teammate who takes one touch and puts it in the back of the net. Okay? That's
and
an
if
immediate.
You follow this clip. Look at the job by the referee in selling this call.
Absolutely. And that's what we're looking for here. This is where you're really going to make your money this year, by selling your decisions and helping educate the coaches and the players on what was called. We don't expect you to hold court out there, okay, to give a lecture, right? But your body language, in this case, the referee's body language on making this call and selling it, helped really diffuse the situation and created less dissent.
And you should notice the referee's position there too. He is perfectly positioned to be able to look through those two players and can actually see the attacker heading that ball, even though there's a gaggle of players in the middle of the field.
Okay, Tori, is there a question from the audience?
There is, Lance. How'd you know?
Put me in the hot seat.
You're a smart man. Doug, is there any way that we can bring Michael in to ask his own question? I'm not sure if we can find Michael. Let me see if I can. Perfect. Let's add Michael into the conversation and let him ask his question.
Michael, where are you from?
Illinois, Greater Chicago. I'm the
great.
guy that Ken referenced earlier.
This gentleman is probably retired and comes from a different generation. So he will have a very difficult time understanding these changes.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, Ken. My question is, through my years of experience, I've come to learn that coaches don't always know and or understand the rules. So with all of these changes, particularly the stuff that you're talking about, Lance, with the handball situation, to avoid any kind of, or to try and minimize problems, is this something we should address prior to the game with captains and or coaches? Or do we just say it's your job to know the rules, and then if something occurs during the match, then we'll do our best to explain it?
Michael, great. This is a great question. And I think if this was a normal year where we don't have this pandemic, where it's just a normal season, that is a great best practice. You know, being able to pick out some of the more important / rule changes to be able to go over with the captains. But I think this year especially is going to be a little different, right? Because we don't have the luxury of being able to interact too much with the players, right? Because of the social distancing and whatnot. And the same with the coaches, because it's a great opportunity to explain this to the coach when you go up and introduce yourself, much like how most of us do with a video review. Being able to let the coaches know when video review is going to be used and if it's available. So I think your point is extremely valid here, but I think we have to be very careful this year, especially because of the COVID-19 and the way it's affecting our game itself. So I don't know, and probably Ken can answer this more, how we could do this without really having an issue.
Good point.
Michael and Lance, this is something that the NCAA is looking at right now. We may not even have coin tosses. It could go that far. We probably won't have pre-game meetings. So, Michael, you've identified a problem. I don't know that we're going to be able to appropriately address it this year. So all the more reason that you're going to have to be in position and sell something like Lance has just been promoting. You need to go in and be ready. You've got to make your signals. I've got it. It's a handball. And then you should probably be even saying things. I understand it was accidental. I get it. Right? Accidental, but it's an attacking player. Let's go. So maybe that would be the catchphrase: accidental, but it's an attacker.
And then Ken, we do have the restriction of coaches approaching referees at halftime, but
Yes.
there may be an opportunity. And again, Lance, you're right on target with all of this minimal communication and verbal interaction of still saying, coach, here's what I did, and this is why, period. And then leaving it that way.
And let me weigh in here as well. I understand where we're going to be, or suspect I understand where we're going to be in terms of our ability to have long, drawn-out discussions with coaches. But I also think we're not going to be completely devoid of conversation. So I think when we get to the field, we still, as a referee, introduce ourselves to the coach, appropriately social distance. We can still talk to someone from 6 feet away. And we should, at that point, say something to the effect of, Coach, there was an extensive list of rule changes this year. Anything you want to talk about? And then move to the next coach. And we won't do that as a group of 3, but we can have those individual discussions as part of the introduction. And we don't have to get very proactive about it, but again, I think we can at least highlight some of these areas as part of that socially distanced introduction when the referee crew comes on the field. And we will have more, as we said, on pregame mechanics and pregame expectations as the NCAA develops their multi-sport recommendations and as NYSOA develops soccer-specific recommendations to supplement and augment what the NCAA comes out with. So I don't think this is going to go all the way to 0.
Yeah, I would want to say then referees should be prepared in a very succinct way of saying A, B, C.
Yes. Look, we've communicated with the coaching community, and as Todd has pointed out, no one is paying attention to the rules this year, even less than normal. All anybody cares about now is, am I going to save my job and are we going to play? And if we think we're going to be able to educate them on rules changes this year, I think that's folly. So you need to be more prepared than normal. And, think of your catchphrases. I did it on the fly, but I like, the phrase that I just did. Accidental, but it's an attacker. Boom, go. I know it's accidental, right? And then we go from there. But you are not going to have the opportunity to interact with coaches and or players this year as you have in the past. And it's going to make our job more difficult. But we need to look at it now and be ready for it.
And Doug, just go back to that page, please, the page with the rule change on it. I want to point out one thing that we've somewhat glossed over here because we don't have any videos to talk about this, but I want to make sure people are aware of this. One of the changes that are embedded in this rule change is the goalkeeper can no longer score by throwing the ball in the opponent's goal. That was a rule change this year. So the goalkeeper can no longer throw the ball into the opponent's goal and score. And those long clearances that may have resulted in the ball winding up in the net is not a goal. And so, again, it doesn't happen that often, but I will guarantee you that if you're not aware of this, it'll happen in one of your games. Now back to you, Lance.
One thing to add, guys. So having worked a few games here, and even my last game had 4 accidental handballs. Interestingly enough, the more that we call these and the more that the players see it and they've had the privilege of watching these games and seeing these, I think you're going to see them get more familiar with it as we go. The important thing is that we call it quickly, we signal really clear, and we move on. I don't think it's a lot of conversation needs to happen here. It's a new rule, attacker handball, and we just keep playing.
Yes, Tori, thank you for helping us do our jobs in the college season by calling those on TV so everybody can see them. So we appreciate that. But, Michael, thanks for the question. Really do appreciate it. Let's do this clip now. All right, you had a accidental handball there, and we're going to show it on the replay. Ball's in the back of the net. Now, I've been telling everybody, accidental handball, immediate promising attack or goal scoring opportunity, goal scoring attack, that we disallow the goal. But look at this one. This one's a little different. Yes, it's a accidental handball, but what happens here? There is a considerable amount of time, and this is a consideration, where the player dribbles the ball downfield, pretty much 35, 40 yards downfield, makes a pass across. So he accidental handball there, dribble, 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 time, pass, goal. This is not immediate, okay? And this is why we really need to focus on the term immediate. This is not immediate. The goal should stand, okay? So this is where we have the difference. This was a accidental handball, pretty much in the midfield. Time for dribbling in space, pass, second pass, goal. Goal is our final decision. Okay, so this is the counter example. Don't worry, we have a couple more.
And this gets to the notion that that was mentioned earlier in the conversation, that had there been a defensive foul there, would you have considered that stopping a promising attack? Probably not. It was far enough away from the goal. All the considerations for stopping a promising attack would tell you that this most likely, therefore, isn't creating a promising attack.
Thank you, Todd. This one's a little bit more gray, but we're going to hope you see it. Right there, accidental handball. He turns, dribble, 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 dribble. It actually gets played out by a defender to the red team's teammate, who then scores. So when the handball occurs, right, because it deflects up from his foot in a controlled movement here, deflects up to his foot, where we normally would not call this, okay, in the midfield. But his back is to goal, and he has to turn. And look how many defenders are there. Okay, so if a foul had occurred when the player had where the spot where the player had handled the ball, we would not give a yellow card for stopping a promising attack here. Right? There is no goal scoring opportunity when the ball hits the hand. The goal scoring opportunity occurs by the poor defending, and it actually gets kicked out by a defender who then goes to a teammate of the red and scores. So this would be a goal, okay? This one might be a little bit harder to follow along here because it's the same player who dribbles, but because there's a considerable amount of time here, this would be a goal. Oh, this is my favorite clip. So before we give you the answer here, I want you to put it in the text, the chat. You either have handball or no handball. And this, I will tell you, this is accidental. So that's part of the consideration here. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of no, I'm seeing a couple handballs. I'm seeing no handballs. Hey, Tori, can we bring somebody on? Let's take a look. Let's take a look. I want somebody to come on and say why it's a handball. So let's see if we can find
there. So maybe one of the yeses can. Here's one.
You want to raise your
digital hand
if
you want to defend your position.
We're going to bring one from each side. Not Michael again. Sorry, Michael. We got to give somebody else an opportunity. Tori?
I'm bringing Nadar in.
Okay. Nadar, welcome. Is he there? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Welcome to the show. Please explain your where are you from first, and then please explain what your decision is.
Are you unmuted?
Okay.
Let's move to someone else then.
Next. How about we bring Brendan Malarkey? I see Brendan.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, there's Nadar's up.
Oh,
there.
Nadar,
It's too
okay.
late. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, this is Nader from New Mexico. I feel like it's handball because he gained advantage. His arm was extended enough to gain that advantage. Otherwise, actually, the ball was going to pass him, and the other player, the opponent player, will be able to get hold of it. So that's why I called it should be a handball.
Okay, I understand your point here. So, but for this sake of purpose, you're going to see that it's non-deliberate. It's a ball to hand. So we're going to kind of talk about that in the next slide too, where it's not a hand to ball movement. It's actually a ball to hand, and he's within his natural plane silhouette, which that's a new term that's been coined recently. So it is an accidental handball. All right. But now we're trying to judge whether or not this is a immediate scoring opportunity.
Well, let me, Lance, jump in here. One other thing that Nader said that I want to just clarify for everyone, because you made a comment which I think is important to make sure people understand. You said he gained an advantage. If you have last year's rule book, and you'll see it in this year's as well, it hasn't changed. Inadvertent touching shall not be penalized even though the player or player's team gains an advantage by such inadvertent touching. And that'll now be revised to say, except for the situations that we talked about. But the fact that he gains an advantage as a defender is not a consideration. He didn't create a promising attack. He didn't immediately put the ball in the goal. The ball didn't score directly from his hand. So the fact that he gained an advantage there is immaterial in the discussion as long as you determine that it's not deliberate, that it's inadvertent.
Thank you, Todd. Nader, thank you for stepping up and volunteering here to explain your decision here. So we're gonna focus on with this one is this an immediate attack? Is this immediate goal scoring opportunity? So using some of the considerations that we've discussed, time, distance from goal, things like that, that yes, this is an attack. However, this is not a immediate goal scoring opportunity. So this would not be punished with a direct free kick. This would be play continues. We would not call it.
Doug, can you play the whole video through? There's some requests for that.
Okay. Yes, it is an attack, but it is not an immediate goal scoring opportunity because of the distance that needs to be traveled here. All right. This is Ken's clip. Ken, would you love to explain this one for us? Ken, you're on mute.
All right. Now, with our adopting the rule change, this is now a second touch by the keeper. It is not a handball. Why? It's the keeper. It can't be a handling violation by the keeper inside the penalty area. So this will be an indirect free kick restart and a caution as to the keeper. Not a handling violation, a two-touch indirect free kick, and you're going to caution the keeper at this point. We had some problems over the years where teammates were playing the ball back to the keeper in the box, and the keeper was handling the ball, touching the ball with his or her hand. And we had people calling those handling violations. We even had a couple dog shows, and that is clearly wrong. It is not going to be a dog show. It's not a handle situation. It's a two-touch.
Ken, do you want to talk about the caution? There are questions on the caution.
Yeah, you're stopping a promising attack.
And this is because of the red player here that's closing in on the ball. And had the goalkeeper not touched it a second time, that there is a promising attack here developing. That's not a blanket statement for every time there's a double touch by the keeper. You have to be able to read the situation and use the considerations for promising attack and whether or not it occurs. So that's kind of following up with the chat here, why people are asking for caution. Another question that was asked is in the rule, how it says, the third one, scores an opponent's goal directly from their hand or arm, even if accidental, including by the goalkeeper. Okay, so the question was, why is the goalkeeper identified in this situation? All right, so what happens at the end? I'm going to answer this one. So what typically happens at the end of games when a team is down by 1 goal and there's a corner kick? The team will push up everybody into the penalty area, including their own goalkeeper, in hopes that they can score the equalizing goal. Okay, now we all know that goalkeepers are allowed to handle the ball inside their own penalty area without punishment from a shot or save or whatever. But this is just to clarify that even if it's accidental by the goalkeeper for the attacking team, it is still to be punished. So I hope that answers a couple of questions in the chat. Next clip.
Lance, I want to say one thing on that one before we go. I'm sorry. And this is fine at the still. I want to point out goalkeeper position, AR positioning here. We'll talk about this in much more detail on the restart section. This is not the proper position for an AR now. The AR should be back in this situation, even with the ball, not even with the 18. The 18 is now irrelevant in this because the ball is in play once it's kicked. The AR needs to be in a position to evaluate any kind of offside that happens as at any point in time. So the AR should be back even with the 6, not even with the 18 in this situation. And you see when this clip plays forward that the AR is having to scramble to a more appropriate position because of where he is.
Yeah, Todd, that's a great point. And that's something, it kind of gives us an introduction to our session 3 of the rule changes that involves restarts. And we're going to talk more about the AR positioning, referee positioning, reading the game. We're going to go into detail with that. And that is session 3 on July 25th.
Virtually every restart change that we've adopted this year is going to affect your positioning. It's hard for me to think of one where it won't. Whether it is a drop ball, now we're playing 6-yard kicks. Doesn't matter if you're, why would you be at the 18? As Todd said, the 18 is irrelevant now.
Yep, expect the unexpected. Now we're gonna go through these ones quite quickly because most of us have seen this through the stimulus quiz. And this is more or less just to talk about handball considerations. So this one, you're gonna see it's a deliberate act. It's a hand to ball, okay, by the defender. There's a motion with the arm towards the ball. Referee's in a great position here. Handball, penalty kick. And this is part of week 5 stimulus quiz by Mark Geiger and Tori Penso.
Watch your time, by the way.
Okay, you'll see this one. You'll see the defender starts with their hands behind their back, okay? Which it's not necessarily a normal position to defend. Most defenders are starting to do this, but you notice here is his body, makes himself smaller originally, but then as the shot's taken, he moves his arms to make himself bigger. Okay. So he's creating a barrier with his arm at this point. Now, we would expect this to be called a penalty kick, handball, but also misconduct can be issued for a shot on goal because it stops a promising attack because there's a goalkeeper behind. Okay. Now you have, Ken can probably talk a little bit more about this, but this is something new to many of us. And it's something that you really need to be focused on when there's shots on goal.
I'm absolutely convinced this is a yellow card. The thing that scares me a little bit is whether or not people would be considering this a dog so. So now you've got a couple more considerations. Based upon what we see, it looks very clear that the keeper is in good position. It would be awfully, awfully harsh to issue a red card in this. But as someone is just posting right now, it is a shot which is on goal, would seem to, by definition, be a promising attack. So therefore, when you're seeing that situation, you should be looking at a caution.
Thank you. Next.
And something to add on to that as we head to the next one, Lance had mentioned what soccer expects, and I think soccer expects a yellow card when there's a shot on goal like this. So just keep that in mind as well.
Now, this one's also from the stimulus quiz. You see a controlled touch or controlled play by the defender here, all right? And then the ball deflects up to her arm. This is not a handball, okay? This is, considering the new rule, considering the considerations, this is a controlled touch by the ball by the defender, which then deflects up to their arm. So this is not a handball.
All right, so here's where you look at the dichotomy. If this was an attacking player, it's a handball. Defending player, it's not a handball.
Absolutely. And there's no second, in the defender too here, there's no second motion with their hand. If their hand is moving to the ball here, even though there's a controlled touch, then yes. But remember what Todd said too about the gaining an advantage from a non-deliberate, which is accidental handball, is not an offense, especially this is for the defending team. Next clip. So this is another example of this. And you're going to be able to see it on the replay. The defender makes a controlled touch movement with the ball, and it actually deflects from their thigh up to their arm. Right here, you'll see it. And then his arm. Now, yes, the arm is up above the shoulder, you could argue, but it does not matter in this situation because it's a controlled touch. There's no second action by the arm to move towards the ball. This one's going to be very difficult to sell on the field. So you really have to be in a good position. You have to use your both verbal and nonverbal communication to be able to sell the decision, which is a no call.
And this is another one of those situations where players and coaches have their buzzword about the player making himself bigger. The player is getting bigger because his arm is out, but since that is a direct touch from his own body, from his foot or in this case his thigh, that is irrelevant. And as long as there's no second motion with the arm, there's no handball here.
Next. Polling. All right, now we're going to do some polling. So you're going to have a poll that pops up. We expect you to take that poll and you can actually move it. So that way you can move it away from the video. I would recommend you move it to the left of the screen. So that way you can see the offense, if it's an offense or not. Okay, so you're going to have, so go ahead. We'll play it one more time after this. Okay, poll. Please go ahead and submit your answer. We have 256 people on viewing, so we would like to get 100% participation if possible.
Just remember, we can't see your individual answers, so we just see the aggregate. So there's no risk here. Just click what your gut says.
We're not here to judge.
Just make a call, please. Come on, referee.
Getting heckled by Ken Andrews. For those of you typing it in the chat, make sure you click it on the actual poll.
We're going to give you about 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. End poll. Okay, everybody sees the results here. 66% say no card, direct free kick. 29% say direct free kick, yellow card. And then we have a couple no card, no foul, a couple PKs. I'm not sure why it's PK when it's the attacking team. Maybe it was the wrong button clicked here. But you look here, this is a prime example of, okay, we didn't show everybody the little the diagram that came out with IFAB, where it kind of shows you where the hand starts versus where the shoulder is. To have a general guideline is going to be the length of your sleeve. Now, most players, their sleeve comes to about right here, okay? So anything here and up, kind of like the armpit, here and up, is going to be not handball. Anything below that will be handball. So that's just a guideline. That's not necessarily works in every situation because if players have long sleeve jerseys, it's kind of tough to tell. But here, this is a case where we're going to say this is an accidental handball. But what happens? It results into a goal scoring opportunity immediately. Okay, so this is what we would expect it to be whistled immediately. If the AR needs to be involved here, please get involved by putting the flag up. And let's stop this play right away and give a direct free kick coming out. No misconduct is needed here, okay? Because, I know some of you are probably thinking, well, he deliberately handled the ball. But think about this too. Would you give a second yellow card if this player already had a yellow card for this? And your answer should be no, because that would be extremely harsh. So if you're not willing to give a second yellow card for this, then you should not give a first one for it. Okay? So this is direct free kick, no card. Next one. All right, we need to see a replay on this one. All right, polling's up. Move the poll if you would like.
If we've done our job today, this one shouldn't take very long.
No, and I think it's not going to take very long. We're going to do about 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and show the poll. Excellent. Excellent here. We still had about 17 people say no card, no foul. But please remember here, this is an accidental handball, because if you notice that Neymar, he heads the ball and it deflects off his arm and then into the goal. Okay, but this is an immediate, this is accidental, but this is an immediate goal because, I mean, goal score opportunity because he scores. Okay, so this was disallowed. Direct free kick, no card from the spot of the handball. Now, remember what we said too, as a referee, you're going to have to really sell the decision. Don't sell the decision from midfield. Sell the decision with your proximity and your nonverbal communication. Next.
And excuse me, and then if this particular player happens to start rolling around on the ground because his arm was injured from his own handle violation, you should probably caution him then.
And if it's a serious injury, he's allowed to sub out. And I don't want to get there. Okay, take a look at this one. Can we see that one more time? Thank you. Okay, let's get the poll up. Okay, let's give 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Publish. Great. Excellent. Excellent here. Direct free kick, no card. Accidental handball, and he scores. All right, so we still got some people that think it's yellow card. They probably think it's a yellow card because they say, well, he scored with his hand. But remember, this is accidental. This is not a deliberate. He's not propelling the ball in the goal with his arm. Okay, this is an accidental handball that just so happens to result into a goal scoring opportunity, which in this case is a goal immediately. Okay.
You're not cautioning people who don't engage in deliberate conduct or deliberate misconduct.
Absolutely. This isn't Diego Maradona, hand of God.
I'm more concerned about the no foul in this situation. Look, if it touches the hand or the arm and goes directly into the goal, it's got to go the other way. Don't interpret anything more than that. Either it touched his arm, hand, and went into the goal, or it did not. If it did, it's got to be coming out. There's no other decision. You can't interpret anything else.
And Ken, I think
you've got 2 choices. It's accidental or it's deliberate. And in both cases, it's coming out.
Agree. And I think knowing the NYSOA family as well as we all do, I think we have some family members on here just giving you a hard time by entering no foul, no card.
You know what? I noticed that it was Mike Oliver and had one of the no fouls cards. So, you know.
Okay, let's go to, I believe this is the last clip, right, Doug?
Yes.
Okay, we have one last clip to get it right. Couple people on here were in the group chat, in the chat were saying, "Oh, Lance, these are too easy. These are too easy. We want a difficult one." Okay, well, this one's a little bit more difficult. All right. The poll. This one's a little bit trickier. Accidental handball.
5%.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And polling. All right, we got 76% say no foul, no card. Okay, so we got 23% say direct free kick, no card. And then looks like Mike Oliver said PK yellow card. No, I'm just kidding, Mike. We're just picking on you.
Why don't we get, Lance, why don't we get someone to talk about why they think it's either or? We'll get one person from each side here to talk about that.
Sure. Let's get the hand raised. Let's talk about why it's no foul, no card.
Guy raised his hand and I just unmuted him.
Okay.
Go, Guy.
Go ahead.
Guy, you with us?
Guy, you're going to have to unmute.
Well, let's go to someone else then.
I am unmuted.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, here's
Sorry, I'm
Guy.
here.
Okay.
I'm here. It did not lead directly to a goal. It pinged around a few times.
So you say this is an accidental handball, correct? Because the ball
Correct.
got kicked into his arm.
Correct.
And you're saying that it was not immediate goal scoring opportunity.
Correct.
And that is because of why?
Passed through 3 players.
Correct.
And
That
the
is
defender
correct.
actually plays the ball here, right? The defender is one who plays the ball to that attacker who gets it next.
Okay. This is correct. So, Guy, you are correct.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So this is not an immediate goal scoring opportunity. Okay. This is an accidental handball, but it is not an immediate goal scoring opportunity. Why? Because it gets played out to the top of the penalty area, who then passes it to another teammate who then shoots it. All right. Now, had it been shot right now in goal, yes, then you could say that's immediate. But that additional pass is what makes it not immediate. Now, we don't really have considerations on how many passes are needed for it to be considered not immediate. We expect you to use common sense. We expect you to use practical application here and follow a little bit of the guidelines we've been talking about with time, number of players, stuff like that. Okay. So in summary, please look at the rule book. Please review this presentation on NYSOA's YouTube channel when it's published. It should be published probably by tomorrow or Monday at the latest. All right. And please continue to educate yourself on handball. Look at the considerations. Look at week 5 of the stimulus quiz from Mark Geiger and Tori Penso for more clarification on deliberate action, barrier, unnatural position, and stuff like that. So Tori, or Ken, Todd, would you like to add anything else before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just a quick review. Tori, let's remind everyone what we're doing next week so that folks can review the book and be ready to go.
Yep, absolutely.
And again, the rule book is available, as Ken said, online, and Tori put the link in the chat box. The rule changes people were asking about are on NCAA Center Circle on the Arbiter Hub for NCAA Soccer, the summarized version. And hopefully we'll have everybody back here at noon Eastern time next Saturday.
And
So
if I
thanks,
may, one
everybody,
thing
and
I'd
I'll
really
turn
like,
it over to Tori to do the wrap up, unless Ken has anything else to say.
yeah, just quickly. Please read carefully the definitions and explanations. We've got approved rulings dealing with violent behavior 1 and 2. This is critically important in the eyes of the NCAA. I think you all know that we are looked at as the problem child sport in the NCAA. They get more complaints. They see all these issues of misconduct. And this is a concerted effort for us to clean up the game. So we're now giving the referees the tools to really eliminate the bad stuff. When somebody does something, it's violent conduct. So by definition, it's off the ball, right? It's got nothing to do with the game. And now if you're really going to, my term from New Jersey, if you're really going to tune somebody up in a violent conduct situation, well, guess what? You don't belong on the field and you don't merit a 1-game suspension. It's a 2-gamer. So let's look at the definitions: deliberate, malicious, likely to injure. And when we start going over those issues, let's keep those considerations. Somebody said to me, a coach was saying, well, you're asking referees to decide whether it's a 1 or a 2-game suspension for my player. No, you're not. You're asking a referee whether or not the player did something deliberate, malicious, with intent to injure. And that's what your decision is. And by the way, coach, if that's what it is, then that player doesn't belong on the field, whether it's your player or the opponent. So let's pay attention to that. It's going to be a big issue, and we need to sort it out and get it right. And last, thanks, everybody. This was a lot of fun. Good stuff.
Now, there's a question that just came up in the Q&A about uniforms for this year and whether we're going to be wearing yellow socks, and the answer is no. We'll use the NISOA-approved equipment. We'll still use the 1-stripe NISOA sock. If at some point we want to add an extra sock to the mix, we will do that. We'll make that uniform option available to people in mass. So just to answer that question that came up in the Q&A box.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for everybody for showing up. And thank you so much to our instructors today. Ken, it was such a pleasure to have you on and have your experience having been behind those walls in those conversations with the NCAA in regards to those rule changes. It's such a privilege to have you. So thank you for joining. Todd and Lance, as always, thank you guys so much. It's clear that your direction was given as people had 90–95% accuracy in their quizzes. So you guys people must have been listening. So great job there. A big thank you to Never Ends Productions. So Doug and Lena in the TV crew, thank you guys so much for everything that you do behind the scenes. Not everyone gets to see it. Is that the trailer? All right. Got a video and all, love it. So there they are. Hey guys. Thank you so much for everything you guys do behind the scenes to make this happen and successful for everyone.
ESPN quality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. I've also put the survey reminder, and I'll do that again right now, into the chat. So if you guys wouldn't mind just taking 5 minutes of your time to fill out that survey at the end of this session, it helps us get some really important information, making sure that we're directionally doing the right things that are really valuable for you guys and providing rich educational experiences that meet your guys' needs so you're set up for the season. So please fill out that survey. It means a lot. We do go through those in detail and make next steps based on that input. So please take a few minutes to fill that out. And then as Ken had mentioned, this is the first installment of 4 that we are focused on our NCAA rule changes. Really important that you guys all make an effort. So thanks for showing up to the first one. The next one is July 18th. It is on that violent behavior 1 and 2 and fighting, as well as video review. Really important stuff for us to know the differences. So please join us next week on that session. And then as you can see in front of us, session 3 will be focused on restarts. Again, not the sexiest topic, but super important as there's so many implications on restarts and the rule changes there. So important for us to be aware of that. And lastly, but certainly not least, we'll have the 4th session will be focused on Q&A, where you'll be able to ask all those questions that may have been burning inside as you've reviewed the rules and had some time to get through these sessions, and make sure that we're all really prepared for the fall season, whenever that might be for us. And of course, we had our professional development sessions. If you missed those, with Alex Cruz and Mark Kadalesic, as well as Ted Uncle. Those are all available on YouTube, as will this session after today. We also have one more coming up with Corey, and I know it has some date and time here that might change ever so slightly. For those that might be aware, he's over in Orlando at the MLS's back tournament. So we might need to make some slight changes in the schedule with that, but we're really excited to have Corey give some more details on communication, as he's one of the best in the business for that. And of course, don't forget our NYSOA Fit workouts. Every weekend on Saturday, you can train with Coach Trent on YouTube if you're looking for some extra training opportunities. And those workouts are posted each week, and you can join live on YouTube. And of course, use hashtag NYSOA Fit for your chance to win some prizes, some Lulu and OSI gear we'll be giving out. And again, thank you again to our speakers, and thank you all for showing up. It's our goal to provide you guys with all the best content and education, so you guys are prepared for the season ahead. So thanks for taking the time to invest in yourselves and make sure that you are well informed. These sessions will be available, so please, if your friends weren't able to attend, please check it out on YouTube, and that is NYSOA's YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe, and you'll get alerts for all new content that Doug and Lena will put up once we're done here. And of course, join us for the rest of the sessions. We're excited for what we have remaining, and hopefully it helps keep you guys prepared. So thanks again for joining, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
So Ken, this is where people start to trickle out. People are still on that can hear us,
Okay.
but